环保啊、节能减排啊、应对气候变化这个和可持续发展这领域的工作，一下在这领域我干了应该40多年。过去开始可能说这是一种职业，等你干一段时间之后呢，看到这项工作对我们国家、民族、对人类，是它的这个影响，就已经从这个职业变成了一种事业了。
In the past decade, no politician has probably been more influential in shifting China's climate policy than Xie Zhenhua. As China's lead negotiator at the United Nations climate change conferences, he's been critical to forging climate agreements on the international stage. Now he's a special advisor to China's environmental ministry and the head of a leading institute for climate and sustainability research. A study done by that institute contributed to China's decision to be carbon neutral by 2060. So how is China going to achieve its carbon neutrality goals in time? And what role will this climate veteran continue to play? After working for China's Environmental Protection Ministry for almost a decade, Xie was appointed as its head in 1993.
During Xie's tenure at the Environmental Protection Ministry, a management system for major air and water pollutants were put in place. In addition, environmental targets started to be included in China's 5-year plans, these blueprints for economic and social development, which had previously been very focused on economic growth.
He resigned in 2005 after a series of chemical plant explosions in China's Jilin province. The explosions were caused by the improper storage of dangerous chemicals and left 6 dead and dozens injured. A local river was also polluted by leaked chemicals, and tens of thousands of residents had to be evacuated.
His resignation came as the environmental agency criticized local officials for covering up the accident and for this blind pursuit of economic development, which damaged China's environment. But the resignation appeared to be only a blip in his career, and as Xie later assumed the role of vice chairman of the National Development and Reform Commission. At the time, the NDRC, China's top economic planner, was responsible for making environmental policy, so Xie continued to have a leading role in China's climate strategies.
In 2007, Xie was appointed as China's lead climate negotiator at the UN climate change conferences. By then, 4 decades of breakneck economic growth had turned China into the world's biggest carbon emitter. Steadily, though, the country's stance has shifted from defending its right to emit to promoting low-carbon development as a national strategy.
大家对中国的这个煤炭和煤电的发展呢，一直有些各种各样的议论。其实中国的煤炭的消费量，从2013年到2015年，实际上已经是达到了峰值。中国的环境污染问题、雾霾的问题、大气污染的问题，这个很多问题，其实它的主要来源还是煤炭。现在呢，这个对煤和这个火电各个部门呢，对它的认识逐步的清楚了。
In China's policy-making system, it's difficult to point to the role of an individual person, but we know that Xie played quite an important role in proposing ambitious climate targets for China, which were eventually adopted by the country's top leaders. So the advantages that Xie had is that he is very well versed in sort of the party structure and the party priorities, as well as international climate priorities. So he knows how to translate the international pressures into better Chinese policies.
我们是发展的国家，我们要发展，我们要消除贫困，我们要保护环境，该做的我们都做了，我们已经做的你们还没有做到。 你有什么资格在这讲这些道理给我？
So Xie is known as a very candid, tough negotiator in international climate talks. At the Durban talks in 2011, a video of Xie repeatedly banging a table over what he believed were hypocritical demands by developed countries was widely broadcast in China. And yet his counterparts continued to speak to a sense of humor and his general likability.
所以在这个谈判场上，他只有对手，有朋友，没有敌人。 所以你能够坚定地维护本国的利益，但是在这个过程当中又能够维护人类的多边的这个利益，找到一个最佳结合点，这就是一个他们谈判代表他应该具备的品质。
Beyond the negotiating table, Xie has a personal commitment to fight for change after traveling to parts of the world affected by the climate crisis.
我从事气候变化工作以后，到南极、到北极，到一些小岛屿国家，到一些不发达国家，到他们最基层，到农村去看了看，确实看到了这个气候环境对这些国家的经济社会发展。比如我去了一个小岛国，一场飓风，这个国家的92%的主导产业就是香料，全部损失了。你看到这些问题、这些危害、这些影响，也看到这些工作能够给这些地方的老百姓带来的这个生活质量的改善。实际上，适应气候变化或者应对气候变化一些措施，是有多重的效益。说这种事儿花钱并不多，只要你选准了这个技术跟选准了方向，其实就可以既应对了气候变化，又改善了生活，又摆脱了贫困，又能够发展当地的经济。
In 2017, Xie received a $2.5 million award for his efforts to tackle climate change. He donated the money to his alma mater, Tsinghua University, hoping to encourage the next generation of climate leaders. He's now the head of the university's Institute of Climate Change and Sustainable Development, and his team's research has helped set China's goal to become carbon neutral by 2060.
We are already seeing some suggestions for how to make this happen. So one climate institute that works with Xie's Institute at Tsinghua has laid out a plan of increasing renewable and nuclear energy and completely phasing out coal power. The plan entails a very gradual transition over the next 15 years with a rapid acceleration after 2035. So under this particular plan, coal-fired electricity would be eliminated by 2050 and China's energy mix would undergo a dramatic transformation. We've also seen these estimates that something like $15 trillion will need to be invested over the next 30 years to meet these targets.
不能用传统的这些生产方式、生活方式、消费模式、传统的技术，要想实现这些目标是很困难的，甚至是不可能的。我们必须要创新，必须要转型，而且要加速转型，这个大力的创新。只有这样呢，才能够真正的实现这个目标。
Tensions between the US and China have been rising in recent years, and the US government has withdrawn from the Paris Agreement. But Xie is convinced there's no time to lose.
现在气候变化的这个极端气候，它的影响、它的危害已经不是未来了，已经就是眼前了。屡战屡败，屡败屡战，说最后呢，还是看到了一些希望。我觉得这个工作是非常有意义的，所以大家应该早一点认识这个问题，来采取行动。这个世界肯定是一个非常美好的。